Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. And today we're going to pit two non-locking folders against each other from companies that aren't known for their non-locking folders. It's the Benchmade Proper versus the new ZT230 designed by Jens Anso. Now for this video, we're going to be looking at the fancier version of the Proper, the 319-2, as it compares rather closely to the ZT230. They each feature carbon fiber handles and premium steel, and right now in 2020 they aren't too far off in price either. We're at $180 for the zero tolerance and a little bit more for the Benchmade at $204. Both of these knives feature a sheepsfoot style blade with a high-end particle steel, and they both come in under the 3-inch blade length mark. The 230 is a true sheepsfoot with a straight edge, and it features CPM 20 CV stainless steel, which is one of the go-to standards for higher-end knives these days with excellent edge retention and all-around performance. Meanwhile, the Proper features a modified sheepsfoot profile as it has a little bit of belly out here near the tip, but it should be mentioned that you can also get this knife with a clip point blade if you prefer that style instead. The steel on the Benchmade is S90V, which, all things being equal, you should get a little bit more edge retention than the 20CV. And with a smidge more sharpened edge length than the ZT, that advantage is emphasized a little bit further. Both of these blades come with a nice stonewashed finish, which is a feature I love for its ability for scratches to blend in with the finish, and it keeps your knife looking nice even once you've been using it for a while. As far as the edge geometry and the actual cutting nature of the blades, the ZT features a full flat grind with the blade stock coming in a hair under 1/8 of an inch thick. It should provide pretty efficient cutting and scoring, especially since the straight edge is less susceptible to slipping out of a cut. Now at first glance, the Benchmade looks like it might not have edge geometry as thin as the 230 because its flat grind only goes up about half the height of the blade. Looks can be deceiving though, as the blade stock on the Proper is thinner. It's only about 3/32 of an inch thick, which is thinner than the ZT, which mitigates the difference between the two knives. The Benchmade also has a nice swedge running most of the length of the spine, which eliminates a high point as you move through softer materials, making the blade a little more efficient. In the end, both of these knives ought to work very well at the lighter everyday carry tasks that are suited to this style of knife. As mentioned, the handles are both carbon fiber, and the ZT uses flat slabs with beveled edges, so you get a very distinct weave with the carbon fiber. Not only does that weave look really good, but it feels very nice in the hand too. Very comfortable, and it's not really going to give you too many hot spots for your normal EDC tasks. The Benchmade takes the lead, however, for handle comfort, at least as far as I'm concerned. It has a little more contour, and the weave on the carbon fiber is more complex too, so it's even more jewel-like as you move it around in the light. As far as accenting colors, the ZT goes with blue with a nice aluminum backspacer which incorporates a lanyard hole, and it's anodized this rich royal blue. Meanwhile, the Benchmade comes with dual liners that feature a flat dark earth PVD coating. What's nice about this is it gives the impression of brass, but you don't have to deal with the corrosion issues that come along with true brass material. The liners are skeletonized, which removes some of the weight, but the ZT is lighter still. It only features two small inset liners that actually provide the detent pressure on the blade itself. In that respect, the ZT has more in common with a friction folder than a true slip joint, and we've taken to calling this type of design a double detent non-locking folder. The Benchmade Proper, being a true slip joint, has a back spring that biases the blade towards the open and closed positions. At the same time, it provides a little more tension on the blade than the double detent on the ZT, which can be open and closed with a lighter touch than the Benchmade. Now, I personally do have a little bit more hesitation when it comes to using this ZT knife towards heavier tasks, but thanks to that sheepsfoot shape, all the force is directed back towards the spine when you're cutting, even when you're using the tip for piercing, so that does mitigate somewhat the weaker detent. Now, because of the different mechanisms, we get two very different characters between these two knives when it comes to their opening and closing action. As far as how you actuate it, you see we have a milled slot on the Benchmade versus a more traditional nail nick on the ZT, which is closer to the pivot, but both open just fine. You'll notice a nice half stop on the travel with both knives, but I'll say that the ZT's feels a little more crisp in general than the Benchmade. Now the Benchmade, because of its slip joint bias, snaps open into place when you get to the end of the opening travel. As far as walk and talk goes, I'd put it decent. It's not exactly the best in the world, but it certainly works just fine. The ZT's bias is not as prominent, and it simply clicks into place as the detents engage right at the very end of its travel. But closing is where the action really diverges. The Benchmade feels like any typical slip joint. You push it past the back spring bias, move past the half stop, and finish the job. And you can even do it with a single hand since the back spring isn't too strong to prevent it. Now somehow, ZT has managed to imbue some of their brand's flickable reputation into the 230. Held just so, and with a little practice, you can snap the blade closed with a press right near the rear of the spine. It's fun to do, it feels really nice, and it adds a little bit of a fidget factor to a classic non-locking folder, which is something you don't see too often. So despite having pretty similar looks on the face of things, you can see that these two knives really have quite a different character. The only question is, which one would you rather put in your pocket? Do you go for the time-tested slip joint mechanism of the Benchmade proper, or the fast and flickable double detent on the ZT230? Or would you save a little bit of money and get the versions of the proper that come with S30V steel and micarta handles instead? Be sure to let us know in the comments, and to get your hands on either of these knives, you can use the links in the description to head over to KnifeCenter.com. And while you're there, you might as well sign up for our Knife Rewards program, because you might as well earn some free money towards the purchase of your next knife if you're gonna buy a knife anyway. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time. I'm not wrong. And you can even do it with a single hand since the brack spring, well, the ZT is lighter steel. Benchmade proper versus the new ZT230 designed by Jesper Vaknaes. No, wait, it's Jens Anso.